The paint sector, and the big questions here being when exactly can we see a recovery in the paint sector and whether they need to shift to need-based products from the premium categories. Is the rural market entry beneficial? Industrial segment pain points. Who better than Akzonobel, Rajiv Rajgopal, the MD at Akzonobel India, joining in the show right now to answer all of these questions and more for us. Rajiv, hi, good morning. Good to have you on the show. Hope you're doing well and trying to stay home as much as possible. Wanted to understand, Rajiv, Akzo has high salience in the premium segment category and the urban market exposure as well. Given that, these two segments are both on the back foot right now because of the COVID pandemic, are you seeing lower demand? And would you say that, the demand is perhaps even lower than your peers?
Good morning, and firstly, thank you for having me in your show. I really wish all of you and all our viewers are also safe. Extraordinary times we live in. Firstly, regarding the question that you've asked, yes, our salience in the paint side of the business, the decorative paint side of the business, and the premium side is higher. And yes, if you look at the last few months post the Unlock 2.0, the impact has been a little higher. We had sort of moved in our distribution into the smaller towns as a part of, increasing our footprint since, 2011, 12, 13. And to that extent, we are much better than where we were about 4 to 5 years ago. Yes, the growth indeed is coming from smaller towns and markets which have not been really impacted by the COVID 2019. And there are a lot of districts and towns, smaller towns, where we are seeing the economic activity and growth still sort of coming in. We do have challenges, particularly in the top 9 to 11 cities, where our salience is relatively higher in the paints part of the business. And however, I must say that if you look at between May and June, once the unlock started, we've moved our capacity in manufacturing to about 55%, and it's improving, actually over a period of time. And even our salience that's coming now from smaller towns, largely in the mass markets, economy segments, and waterproof, has seen some remarkable performances on the paint side. On the coating side, we've got 4 distinct businesses. We've got marine and protective, we've got powder, we've got automotive and specialty coatings, and we've got industrial coatings. Now, the businesses are very varied. If you look at the auto sector, there is some revival coming. However, I must say that it would take a bit of time to see a complete uptick. As far as demand is concerned, we are seeing some good uptick coming in the powder segments with a few customers. On the industrial coatings, we are seeing on the packaging side of the coatings, particularly on the canned food, where consumption seems to be going up, as you are seeing from some of the FMCG majors. We are seeing a bit of an uptick there. And if you look at our marine and protective, I think mixed. Because infrastructure has been a bit under a pause, and as and when we start seeing the economic activity coming back in gear, we should start seeing a revival. My own feeling is that, closer to Diwali season time, of course, there are a lot of ifs and buts at this point of time, because one has to also look at the increase in number of cases. Our first motto has been to keep our employees and our customers safe. I think that's the most important thing to do at this point of time. And the second has been to try and make sure that we are able to participate and extract. If you remember, I've always been saying, since I sort of came back to India and assumed the role, that we actually were following a mandate of return on sales, which was a global mandate that was sort of that we were doing, and we really moved on that journey, even if you were to look at our last quarter results. However, given the sort of the pandemic and what we've seen, my belief is you'll start seeing a recovery. The good news is that we are now going to move from what I call a ROS-defined growth to a growth-defined ROS. And I think we're using this opportunity of the pandemic to revisit our innovation calendar, pipeline, our digital journey footprint, and look at those vectors that we need to play and sort of actively participate.
Sure. Okay. You've given me a lot of follow-up questions to ask, Rajiv. But let me first start on the point that you were making about manufacturing now at 55% levels. Could you also, detail for me what exactly have you seen in terms of a demand, especially for the paints category, with the unlock actually happening in the months of June as well as July? And what percentage of your sales have you managed to touch versus the pre-COVID levels?
So, as far as the sales is concerned, as I just alluded to a little earlier, it's coming in the smaller towns and markets which have got less impacted, particularly in the eastern and southern parts of the country, where the activity has been a little stronger. Now, remember that I'm also a little careful when I make any comment forward-looking for two reasons. That even as we speak, there are certain states and local cities which are entering periods of short lockdown. So one has to be careful. As you know, that there are parts of Northeast, East and South, Western parts which have sort of got into lockdowns of 5, 7, 10 weekends, etc. So that's obviously going to have a bit of a play. As far as if you look at the smaller towns, I would say that it's much more significant than what it was about 5 years ago in terms of contribution, and that's something that we are really trying to continually sort of driving. It contributes to about 40% of our paints business now. Obviously, the larger towns, we are still
right.
A large town player.
Right. Rajiv, would you be able to quantify that as a percentage of sales versus the pre-COVID levels?
Well, I would say that, look, if you look at pre-COVID levels, we are in the smaller towns, etc., almost coming to about 85 to 90% of pre-COVID levels. However, our contribution of the large towns being fairly high, and till the large cities of Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata, Bangalore, etc., start coming back. Obviously, it will take a little while for us to come back. I'm fairly optimistic that, given all the stuff that, I'm sort of getting to read and hear in terms of, the support and what the medical sciences is also trying to bring in, hopefully by Diwali, we should start seeing a slightly better sort of a footprint. And I will be able to give you a far more concrete remark by the time we get into season around September.
Willing to give me a number when it comes to the urban sales, but okay, we'll chat again around Diwali. But tell me, what kind of a sales mix are you witnessing right now? You did say that, there is better demand when it comes to tier 2 in the rural markets, which have been somewhat untouched by the pandemic, yes, or relatively lesser touched, I would say. But are people sort of shunning the premium paints category, and is it more need-based sales that you're witnessing?
That's a good question. Yes, the answer is very clearly yes. So what we are seeing in terms of trends is we are seeing a surge in the mass economy, that category. Now, waterproofing, which, by sheer margin profile that it has, is a bit premium. That's sort of doing well across markets. The reason premium is getting impacted is because, people are obviously a little cagey about getting their homes, inside of their homes painted. So while we are seeing a little bit of demand come back in the new construction, new build sector, as and when, the builders are slowly starting the activity back, we are facing a bit of a challenge still in terms of two. One, a little bit of migrant labor challenges where painters, etc., have moved out from the larger cities to be able to come back, and that's something that we really expect that will sort of we'll start seeing some recovery by the time Diwali approaches.
Right. Rajiv, you know what? Commercial obligations. I have to take a very quick commercial break, but stay with us. I'm going to come right back and continue my conversation with you. But still in conversation with Rajiv Rajgopal from Akzonobel India. Rajiv, thanks for patiently waiting by. But we've talked about how the paints category is actually moving ahead. Now let's talk about numbers and what they reflect. Your EBITDA margins, as I see, saw a very limited expansion in the fourth quarter as compared to your peers. Despite all the tailwinds that were benefiting most categories, in the quarter gone by. Why exactly is that? Why is it that you lagged your peers?
Two things. First, if you look at the numbers, clearly, as a part of our strategy of improving our return on sales and profitability over the last few years, we had to look at each of the businesses in a very granular manner and look at segments where we really believe it was not intrinsically attractive enough to participate. So that's a part of the strategy that we sort of worked in. We sort of broke the entire country and businesses and segments and looked at saying, where we can sort of make a profitable journey. Remember that, our intent is to be the reference in paints and coatings. We coat any surface, be it a wall, wood, ship, rig, your mobile phone, package, cans. So in that journey and to make sure that we are building a sustainable business, intrinsic profitability is quite important. And as a result of which we sort of got out of certain segments where we believe that we were not able to intrinsically add value. So if you look at our revenue, that's what sort of over the last couple of quarters sort of lagged peers. We are slowly building back. We believe that it would take a bit of time, as I've been telling all my investors, but that's something that we want to sort of build in a very profitable and a continual manner and in a very sustainable manner. Yeah, we in fact, if you look at the quarter gone by, obviously, given the lockdown and the contribution that March has on the quarter, it had a huge impact. Remember that the lockdown started, you lost almost about 8 to 10 days of sale. And for us, that was a significant contribution, even vis-a-vis the prior year. Yeah, and that's pretty much, if you look at the months of Jan and Feb, after if you look at, and versus the previous 2 quarters, we had started really bouncing back. We started seeing some green shoots, we started seeing some growth, and it was a bit unfortunate, but as it is, this is something that we in business need to learn to handle, and we've learned to cope with it very well. Our focus, hence, has been really focusing around cash cost and making sure that our operations are very safe. And if you look at the company and you look at the profitability of the company and the cash position of the company, we've really been able to come out of this pretty strongly. Yeah. On the EBITDA margin, of course, there are various other plays. If you look at our costs have been significantly well controlled over the last year or so. And as and when we start, and that's something, the journey that we've really commenced on, we start adding growth back, you would start seeing the momentum come back.
Sure, and you had crude as well, the fall that you had in the previous quarter as, coming to your aid. Unfortunate that COVID as well sort of collided at the same time. But tell me, what would you rather focus on? Is it going to be getting back lost volumes or by passing on price cuts? Is that a strategy as well that you're mulling?
Look, as far as price cuts in crude is concerned, as you've seen, crude went down to $20, it's back to 43. You've seen the sort of prices of diesel and petrol even in recent times. So obviously the logistics and freight costs have started going up. So look, there is a lot of hyper competitive activity in the market. That's something that we are mindful of. We will continue to drive volume growth in all the segments that are fairly attractive as a part of our strategic pursuit. And yes, given the sort of profile and shift we see in the sort of markets and the segments, particularly say in the paints part of the portfolio, that's something that we are alive to. And that's something that our innovation calendar, hopefully that we are sort of now embarking on towards the end of the year, will start addressing and bringing far higher value in some of the segments to the consumers.
We'll let you go on that note. Appreciate you taking the time out, Rajiv, and sharing with us your plans about how Akzonobel is really looking to battle the COVID blues and as well as an outlook on what you see for your financials.